Hello everybody, hope you're doing well today, tonight, this morning, whatever it is where you're at when you see this. So today's painting that I'm going to be working on is this old store. I've been working on a series for my personal stuff of old buildings, like old farmhouses and stuff like that, kind of a more simplified painting style. And so I wanted to share with you kind of how I'm doing that and what I'm doing with it. It's a little bit more simplified as far as details and stuff, mainly just some of the look of like the old impressionist paintings or watercolors. So just something a little bit more simplified as far as everything goes. But anyway, you'll see what I mean as we develop through this. I'm probably going to be using one or primarily one brush for the building, and that's going to be this knife smooth right here. This is one of the standard ones that comes with Rebelle 6. This is an 8x10 painting size that I'll upsize by 4 to make for prints and stuff like that for later on, because I am putting these in my Etsy shop if you ever want to take a look at that. I have 2 of them actually. Most of these are going into my one that is Download Some Art, is the name of the shop on Etsy, where you can get the prints for, to print for personal use. I think right now I'm running a 50% off sale, so I think each one of them is like, $4 or $5. Nothing major at all if somebody wants to. Now, my patrons who will be seeing this first will actually get access to the line art that is here, and then all the list here for the colors, and the upper level ones will actually have a copy of this that they can print as well. So anyway, just thought I would mention that. If you want to use custom brushes on it, you definitely can. I may use some, but I'm going to primarily stick to this knife one that I have and do that. And so let's just kind of dive into it and see what we can get into and what we can create. Okay. So I've got the pigment turned on, so it's use color pigment, so we get more of a natural blending. So we're going to use that. And like I said, I'm going to use the Express Oil Brush Knife Smooth. Okay, so from these colors over here, I'm going to pick a few and just kind of grab some here and there to kind of throw in. I want to have the light is going to primarily be coming from the right hand side. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of throw in some of these colors, and I'm going to blend these all around. And I just want to throw in a little bit here and there to kind of lace down some of my palette here. And I find that I like doing it a little bit more like this because I can get some interesting blends of color. And then grab some of these and then come back and paint it. So I'm not worried about this because I've got it on a separate layer. Just kind of go all around. So in some of this I want to just kind of lay the color down to kind of harmonize it here and there, but this is more of a muted palette as well. So now that was on 2 for the brush, I'm going to push 4, which you'll see makes it a blending over here. I'm going to bring my right bracket key and bring it up a little bit, and then just very softly start blending this around a little bit, and this will be the first pass at the sky. Once I kind of have these blended, I'm going to work over here and come back towards that blue. So this is just going to give the indication of some clouds. Maybe like a storm had just passed or something like that. Okay, so there's a little bit of grayish green in here and some other colors. And you can see how that gives it a little bit of this blue. So I'm going to tap on this one and then go a little bit brighter and just kind of bring that in a little bit here and there, which will then give me just push 4 again, soften up some of these edges. And just like that, we have a nice indication of some clouds maybe passing through. Okay, now we can come back later and play around with these if we want to. All right, and we might, you know, because I might want to take like some of this, for example. Let's just kind of show you. If I wanted to take a little bit of this and come across like that, push 4 again, and just kind of lightly blend it up. That'll give the indication of maybe, you know, where some clouds are peeking through. I can grab this blue, tap on it, go a little bit lighter color, come across 4, kind of blend it in, something like that, and then just kind of soften it into the top. So that'll just give the indication of some clouds and maybe some horizon in the background. It's, you know, I mean, some breaks and everything else. So that is that. So I'm going to make a new layer. And then I'm going to go with this white color here. And what I want to do is have this be my lighter side and this be my shadow side. So I'm going to bring the bracket down and just kind of smear some of this in. And I do have a photo that I'm kind of loosely working from that somebody gave to me to use. And it has boards in it here, like planks, but I don't want to have those planks painted in. In other words, I don't want to go plank by plank. That's what I'm saying. Got that in there. I'm going to go to 4 again. Just kind of smudge it in the direction planks would be. Like so. And that's going to give me a little bit more of that look. I'm going to grab my selection tool here, my masking tool. I'm going to bring that up. And this is an older building that's kind of leaning. Subtraction tool. Something like that. Delete and get rid of that white. Grab a little bit of this blue here, like so. It's going to be some of my darker colors. 4. This down ever so slightly. Kind of soften it. That, and then back across. Like so. I'm going to take a little bit of that streakiness out of it. A controlled streak, I guess. This is really just by blending these back and forth. Like that. And if you push shift and then touch and then come back over and touch, you now have a straight line there. See? So I can't go around it and go up and down. It still stays with that straight line. All right. And then on this side, I want it to be shadowed. So I'm going to take this blue way down through it. Just kind of color this in. I'm going to bring this line art up here where I can see it. Come back down to this one. I'm going to take my selection tool. And now, playing around with this line art, so once I've got that selected, I can then move these nodes, refine my selection. Doesn't have to be perfect, mind you. Just enough for me to work from. If I right click, I can drag the canvas. Hit enter. Okay. I think that'll work, so I'm going to grab, oops. I'm going to press B to go back to my brush, grab this. Darker. Now I can play around with that, then go to 4, kind of smear this down and soften it, smear this around and soften it. D, and see how that's giving me that edge that I need. Doing this, I'm going to go Shift Control I, and I did Control Z to bring back my selection. And I'm just going to push 5, which turns this into an eraser. And get rid of this extra that's around this top part. Like so. Bring back my line art. I can just come around and erase around this. And I could do this with the selection tool too. In other words, select all these, but this is just a little bit faster. Something like that. D. To deselect. I'm going to come back to my selection tool. This right here. I want this building kind of leaning a little bit, so I'm not worried about my ups and downs, basically. This is one of the things I really enjoy, is the fact that I can move these nodes around and really adjust this, then accept it. Now I'm going to push B, go back to my brush, which is on 2. This darker color, I'm going to come in right here, kind of darken this. And then add a little different color to it. Have some of this, dividing it out a little bit. Four. Just smudging this along the directions the boards would go. Something like that. Maybe soften it just a little bit. I'll leave a little bit of that broken up. Grab a little bit of this yellowish color. Kind of put that in here. And 4. Just kind of soften it a little bit. 2. Just kind of soften. And then back to my masking tool. Adjust this ever so slightly. Hit enter. Enter. I'm going to click on the remove and click here. Something like that. Hit enter. I'm going to hit B, go back, hit 2, select this color, and just kind of stroke it along here, like so. Grab a little bit of this color, kind of stroke it in here, like so. Something along those lines. Control D. Back to my selection tool. So I'm using these selection tools because I like being able to use it to just kind of cut doors out and windows out. I don't know. I started doing this lately where it's not dragging like it used to, and I'm not entirely certain why. I've got to look into it more. But I'm just not entirely sure. It's not a major thing, it's just kind of an inconvenience. You know, I'm sitting here, my hand is over top of this, and I didn't realize I had deselected those. Thought I had it back on this one. So it helps to pay attention. So what I can do is I can go ahead and select these. And then go to here and use this to refine my perspective. Which again, with a building that's kind of twisted and leaning, not a big thing. But you want it to stay somewhat consistent perspective-wise. So that gives me that kind of a look. And just darken this in. so. This is if I want these to be open. If I want them to be closed, I can grab a little bit of, like say for example, I want to have a door here. Okay, something like that. Hit 4. Dampen that down a little bit. Go along the edges. Let the brush just slightly overlap into it. Something like that. And grab some of this here. I can grab Shift for where I want it to be. Click. And click. Now those lines match up. And I can do it again, come down a little bit more. So let's say I'll go here, here, like that. Come along the edge, ever so slightly. Add a little bit of white here. Switch to 4. And you can give the feeling of either glass or maybe something behind it. Just like so. To 2. Maybe add a little bit more shine to the right side. That gives a bit of an interest. I'm going to hit Alt, select that, put a door handle, something like that. Maybe a little bit more of a stoop. 4. Will this be kind of a grungy old building? Dilapidated. I think that works, so Control D. Let's take a look without our line art. So yeah, I think that's starting to kind of pull that part together. And this one is all about working a little bit more in sections for when you're doing it. Now, the other buildings I did, the other paintings I did, which actually, let me show you one. I've got one off screen that I'm kind of using to make sure to kind of hold myself accountable to the style that I went with. Let me show you. This is what it looks like. So you can see how I'm using more, using less details, more flat color to kind of tell the story. So that's kind of what I'm wanting to do here. So I've got this off from the edge here. This color palette is pulled from that image. So I'm using it as my base to kind of stick with keeping the same family and that kind of stuff for everything. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I just wanted to show you that real quick. So that's what I'm using off. So if you see me go off and the color changes, it's just me clicking on that one to stay a little bit more consistent. But these are the colors pulled from that. That's the color palette pulled from that other one. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now I'm going to take my selection tool again. Now you could do this, like all of this section that I'm doing like this with this stuff. You could do it with a clipping mask. And really, all you got to do is paint a solid shape and then kind of go through it that way. Now I'm going to grab some of this. So now that I've got this color down here kind of figured out, press brush, go back. I'm going to use this kind of as my guide. I do want to capture some of this variance of color. I like having this darker here because it's going to make this bright edge pop more. Four, just kind of bring it across. Something like that. Now, one of the other brushes I mentioned, I might use different brushes. I'm going to go to this flat wash. I'm going to expand it a little bit. I'm just going to kind of come across some of this a little bit. Back to here. Something along those lines. Okay, grab a little bit of this. Bring that out. Just want to add some interest up here. Maybe like there's some ground molding or some supports. Something like that. D. Bring this up to here. Something like that. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this. This back here, I want to add more darkness to it. And just kind of come across. So I'm using these colors to change to kind of indicate where the lines and stuff are. So not drawing a whole lot of lines. I probably will come back and put a few here and there just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. But mainly just shifts of color. Indicate where stuff moves around at. And what I mean by that is I'm not penciling all this in or drawing all this super detail. I'm just using chunks of color. Bring back the line art for a second here. To detail where everything is. Like so. And I can definitely go in, like I said, and use more line work if I want to. And I may. But for right now, I'm just trying to get the main color thrown in. There we go. And then just same process we did on the other windows. Put these in here, but we're going to add just a little bit of this sky color here. Indication of maybe some window panes. Like so. putting the casing around the window. Like that. Shift Control I. Back to where we were. Now I'm actually going to Control D, Selection Tool, Add To. Because I really kind of like how these look, so I'm just going to select them both. Zoom in a little bit. Find my selection here. Like that. Tell it OK. Tell it OK, and I'm just going to do Control X, Control V. Put those windows on their own layer. So I come back down to here. And now I'm going to really add some definition to some of this. So you can still use the mouse wheel to zoom in, and then right click to drag the canvas. Alright, enter to select it. Zoom back out. So this I want to refine just a little bit and add some more color to. Press B, Alt. I'm going to pull in some of this color. Just kind of go back over this a little bit. And kind of soften these like so. Just set some of that back. Like that. Now I'm going to grab some of this lighter color, like here. I'm going to add some spots where I think boards. Like so. And that'll start kind of tying it in, the perspective and so forth. Again, I'm just trying to give some indication of where boards and everything might be. Something like that. And Control D. And then down here, throw in some slat looking things as well. Something like that. So now if we kill that line drawing, we can see where some of this is developing. So this and this, right now it looks like it's sitting in some ethereal fog. So we need to kind of set the background a little bit more. Let's do that. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to add another layer. And I want to add just some trees and stuff. Let me just kind of over here. Grab a little bit of this green. Kind of green that up a little more. And all I did was just select 4. And I'm going to grab, because I want this to have just some indication, I don't want it to be overly detailed. I'm going to grab some of my more, I don't want to say generic, generic's not the right word, but softer, less detailed. Stencils, so that way I can, I don't want this to detract, is basically what I'm trying to say. I want it to just kind of be an indication . Have some stuff in the background. Something like that. Nothing fancy at all. Just kind of a quick background. All right. Let's add this back in. This is on the windows. Oops. Bring this a little bit more over towards the orange so it's a little bit more brown. Bring that down in size. Something along the lines of that. Okay, let's give this a little bit darker spots here and there. Since we're on the window layer, let's put this window in. Excuse me. Like that. Put the stones and stuff down here, so I'm just going to grab this darker color. Throw a few spots here and there. Like that. I'm going to grab a little bit of this darker color here. And I think I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to start defining some of these edges a little more with some dark. So I'm going to actually take this just a little bit darker. Something like that. I just want to add some interest here and there. Remember I said I might go back and add in some work here and there. It's kind of what I'm doing here. Just a little something to kind of define some edges. Something like that. This is again where I'm going to switch to a different brush because I want to use a little bit more line work. So this pen works better for it than that smooth brush. And if you start adding in a lot of lines, you're going to have to really be careful with your perspective. Making sure that you really are nailing it. So that's why you don't want to go too detailed too much, otherwise you're going to have to start adding in everything. But just a few spots here and there. Can really be all you need. kind of really give it that pop. And there are some of those really cool pen and ink architectural drawings that really kind of get into all the details of all of this. And you could definitely do that. Personally, I just want some indications of what's what. Like that. Some of this blue. I switch in 4, I can just kind of go in and soften some of this ink. Give it a more subtle. Almost kind of a wash fill. By fill, F-E-E-L, not F-I-L. There we go. Alright, so I need to put some grass in here. So again, I want this to just be kind of simplified. So I'm going to bring back my line art. Grab some of this, go below it. I'll brush this in real quick. Add a little bit of water to this. Just kind of let these blend. Back to my nice smooth. Come up a little bit in size. Go to 4. Just some quick up and down strokes. Break this up a little bit. Still kind of bloom around a little bit. And we'll push F, kind of pause it there. Pebbles from stencils. I'm going to turn off lock size ratio. I'm going to stretch it out. Bring this down here. I'm going to border it. Grab this color, go ever so slightly darker. Just kind of get that in there real quick. A few other spots here and there. A bit darker. Add in some stones. Something like that. Control D. Backspace to get rid of it. Back to my pen tool. Really bring this down in size. And just kind of select some of these greens here and there. If it's not showing, you can take the pencil. Or even back to the knife because it's a little more opaque. Actually, I just realized I'm trying to... There we go. This gives it the real feeling of this is all grown up grass. It's just kind of even more abandoned kind of feeling. And the key here is just kind of keep randomly selecting the surrounding color. Like so. And that kind of pushes it and pulls it back and forth. All right, so now the next thing I want to do, I think I want to play around with some shadows and highlights a little more and kind of push this here and there. And I may even give it a couple of washes of watercolor just to play around with this. So this is, you can, from here you can do whatever you want. Sorry about that, hit the microphone. What I'm wanting to do here is kind of play around with the look of it because it's a little too, if you squint your eyes, the values are all kind of similar. It's kind of washed out, which isn't bad. You can leave it like this if you like it, but I want to, you know, kind of kick the colors up just a little bit as far as push the stuff. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go from normal to multiply. Had to turn off pigment. So then I am going to start with this front section here. So I'm going to just select that. And I want to work on this area right here first. So I'm going to go to my flat wash. I'm going to select this really almost white here, but I want to come across to the blues a little more, so there's just the slightest blue tint there. And I'm just going to push that a little more. I may even go towards purple. And then I'm going to add some water to it. That kind of diffuse. And let's go back here a little bit. I'm going to go 4. Kind of soften that a little bit. I don't want quite as much paper texture. 5. Now I could come over here to the smooth. And just kind of bring it around a little more. Like that. So all I'm doing here is just kind of adding in some shadows. Really kind of push it. Pull it ever so slightly. And really the key with this, to get the look, is just kind of keep squinting and see how it's playing. here and there you can kind of go back in with the eraser, which is almost like scraping out some of these darks and just kind of seed them a little bit. So this section right here, I think needs a little something. Not that one though. Not that one either. It's textures. Kind of like this because it's kind of grunging it up a little bit. Which I think kind of adds to the overall appeal. Plus it's tying in some of the color harmony. That will work. So let's make another layer. Let's make this one overlay. I'm going to come to here. We're just going to add in some spots of color here and there. And I'm going to use this grunge because it has a really nice peeled paint kind of look. It's almost like I've got a cat's tongue that I've used that I made. Works really well for this too, but this is one of the ones that comes with Rebelle. I think gives that nice peeled paint kind of aesthetic. Like that. Here we go. Throw a few highlights here and there. So I think that's starting to kind of pull all that together. Oops. So I can put a little bit on here like this and then hit 4 and kind of smear it a little bit. Kind of ties it in. So 2 and then 4. Gives it kind of that nice smeared look. All right. So I think the only thing we need is a little bit of a breakup over here. That area is just kind of dead. So what I want to do is let's grab some of this color, come back down to our sky, come back over here to knife smooth, and kind of add in breakup of the clouds. Just that geometric shape, that little punch of color, I think is going to be what we need. And on these trees here, let's add a little bit more dark. Oops, wrong there. Into here. Nothing really specific. Just something to help kind of, again, break that up. So it's not so flat. So just get some layers. Layers like onions and ogres. Again, just adding some interest. A little breakup of color here and there. So something a little different than what I normally do, but I think it works. Yeah, gives kind of an interest. I would like to put one more thing over in that one left area. So I'm going to do some birds. Let's go with So I went ahead and merge these because I want to mess around with these layers a little bit more. Just add spots here and there. Get pop a little more. Yeah, I think that'll work. So, again, more of an impressionistic, simplified version. Not as simple as the other one that I'd done. It does have more texture here, but I feel like it needed it because it was just kind of getting washed out otherwise. But a good study piece in practicing adding a little bit of line elements, but not so much that you have to get every little piece drawn in. It does give that feel of stuff just being off in the distance, you know, as far as sitting, I mean like secluded. I don't mean like atmospheric perspective. I mean just like secluded. All right, so the only other thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few more to grass here and there. To set this down a little more. Something like that. It's really one. To me, this gives it more of the just abandoned kind of feel. And I think I'm going to add in just a few pops of color. Maybe, and one of the easy ways to do that is by taking the space one that I have, and just throwing in some dots of color here and there. And then I can do the same with the stars one. So I have a space one, which is more, it's like smaller but more stars. And then I have, anyway, they're different. They're similar, but they're different. Just gives it a little bit different feel. Okay. And so you can sit here and put as much icing on the cake as you want, or as little as you want. Totally up to you. But don't be afraid to really kind of spend some time refining edges and getting that look that you want. But I think, for me, this is about it, because I like the feel of it. I like the look of it. So I think I might call it done. Just want to add in some breakup of clouds a little bit. That gives, again, a little bit of interest. You can keep it as loose as you want. I think for me, this is a good stopping point. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope you've gotten something out of it. If there's a certain thing I did that you don't get or that you need help with, as always, leave questions. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm trying to show you guys different things, so not always the exact same method and technique. So that way, if you're something different that you like to do, maybe this will help. But it also keeps me kind of learning and growing too. So thanks again for watching. Make sure to leave any comments or anything else that you need. And I hope you enjoyed it.